Good evening, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, or thanks for coming back. If you were with Keith, Devin, and myself about an hour ago in the NBA crunch time, welcome to NFL. Wild day in the books. It's always a wild week. I say it every week. I'm Justin. Keith's back with me. What's going on, buddy? Long time no see.
Yeah, long time no see. Just recapping this week, it was not a good week for me. I ate the Antonio Gibson chalk that failed miserably. The Chiefs put up 48 points, and somehow neither Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce get there. So played a bunch of Dallas stacks that just nobody really went off. Dak didn't play very well. Yeah, tough week.
Yep, same. Had a lot of the same issues. Played some McLaurin, didn't work out. This Bills thumping is something to be concerned about if you're a Bills fan, I think by now. Interesting, really weird, and of course, Denver, like I remember I had a question on Crunch Time. Can I play Melvin and Javonte together? And like, you don't usually do that on a big slate, but I don't know if they're both going to get there to take anything down, but they're both having pretty decent games against Detroit. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. Your hometown Bears, Keith, how are you feeling about this one? Not hometown, but you're a fan.
Yeah, I grew up near Chicago, so you can call them hometown, I guess. But yeah, I don't feel great about this for the Bears. A big spread, low total. This one might get ugly pretty quick here. Bears really banged up on defense, playing without Khalil Mack and Akeem Hicks, two of their better defensive players. So Aaron Rodgers probably going to have his way with them. Don't like the Bears' chances to hang around this one very much.
You know what? You are very transparent and unbiased. And, I guess I can't argue with that. Khalil Mack is a huge deal, as Hicks is. So we'll dive into it pretty soon. Hey, guys, we're in the Discord channel now. We are done with the YouTube chat, in case you're wondering, where is everybody? So come on into Discord, a RotoGrinders Discord, of course, and you can join the fun by going to rotogrinders.com/Discord. So we're live in the NFL channel for tonight's show. BetMGM, got a couple of plugs real quick. Use the promo bonus code GRINDERSBET. That's GRINDERSBET over there on BetMGM. Bet $10 to get $200 instantly on BetMGM if your team scores a touchdown. Of course, RotoGrinders Premium. We have a ton of stuff every day: articles, podcasts, videos, and of course, you get to interact with a bunch of us on Discord, and we'll do the best we can to help you guys out. Like and subscribe to RotoGrinders. Check out rotogrinders.com for DFS shows that'll help you. Of course, we have a bunch of free stuff as usual, but the premium stuff is really good. And of course, the RotoGrinders Daily Fantasy Football Podcast feed. Ton of audio throughout the week for NFL season, and we love kicking off the week with food for thought, typically with Chief and myself, to kind of just talk some fun stuff, the X's and O's, a little bit of daily fantasy, kind of like the barbershop type feel. So Keith, we appreciate you coming on every now and then. And if you need to vent about the Bears, feel free to give us a buzz, and we can have you back on. But pretty big spread, like you said, and I don't want to sugarcoat this. Terrible team total for Chicago. So I don't know. What's your macro view of this game? Obviously, you said you don't like the Bears' chances. Do you have any kind of specific game script? Like, is it going to be a throttle the whole way, or like who's going to get theirs along the way here?
Yeah, I'm concerned about the Bears' offense overall in general. Important to note, they do get Justin Fields back for this week, but the offensive line is still really bad. The passing game is inefficient. Early on in the year, while Justin Fields has been out there, they've leaned very run heavy as an offense. So I don't know. The Packers play slow too. I think we're going to see. I mean, the total's 43, and it wouldn't surprise me if it stays right there or even goes under that, because the Packers just don't press the gas very much. Even when they get a lead, they'll turn around and hand it off to both of their backs. So I think Vegas is right on with their low total, and the Bears' inefficiencies on offense. I agree that it's a pretty comfortable win for the Packers here.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, the Packers have two backs now, and Buffalo's coming all the way back, huh? Didn't see that. Wow,
they're about to go ahead here.
Wow. Fantastic week of football. Yeah, Aaron Jones, the bye week was necessary for Green Bay, as I have Aaron Rodgers on our screen here with a really well-kept beard he's got going on. At least he has a good barber. So yeah, a lot of kind of mouth to feed in the Green Bay offense, depending on what your take is with workload. It's not just Aaron Jones anymore. The arrival of AJ Dillon, who had his opportunities while Aaron Jones was on the shelf here. And you know what? Like, there should be a ton of points on the Green Bay side. And I'm curious to get your take how it's going to get there. So let's just go a quick position by position. Drop your questions in our NFL Crunch Time Discord channel, and we will get to them towards the end of the show. Quarterbacks here. Okay, so Fields has a pretty nice price on DK, though. Low team total. Can you play Fields, though? Can he get there at this price as a quarterback, raw point wise? What are your thoughts here on playing Fields? Let's start there.
Yeah, he can certainly get there, even if the Bears don't score many touchdowns, because his legs are so dynamic. He's going to run a lot. We saw him open it up a little bit in his last couple of starts before the rib injury. I think they go right back to that, and they kind of turn him loose. I mean, he has 100-yard rushing upside. Fair price. Mentioned the struggles along the offensive line. That's going to make it a little bit difficult to throw on Green Bay. So I think we could see Fields get there on the ground, even if he's not able to have success as a passer.
Yeah, I think so. And this Green Bay defense has given up points. They were a little banged up too heading into the bye week. So I think it's definitely possible. Fields is priced up on FanDuel compared to DK, so there's a little bit of discrepancy there. And Aaron Rodgers, is he the optimal play, regardless of if he is in a takedown large field GPP lineup? Is he going to give you that rock solid floor that you need tonight if you're playing, some small field?
I think you want him in at least the flex. I don't love him as a captain play. I don't think that they're going to try to throw all over the Bears. I think they're going to have plenty of success running it on the ground. They have two talented backs. And I think that Green Bay will be content to just kind of grind it out on the ground once they do get that lead. So I don't have a ton of interest in Rodgers as a captain. As far as like a raw points score, I think he will be necessary in the flex. So I will have plenty of him as a flex play, but I don't like him much as a captain.
I can agree with that. I think he's well in the player pool and flex. I understand the captain play, but I'm not going to go there either. The fun stuff here is running back, and it's kind of hard to get a grasp on how much AJ Dillon we're actually going to see. Obviously, he's a very capable runner. Is he going to get that spelling role, the Jamal Williams role again? Jones had some time to recover. I know it's been labeled as a 1A, 1B type thing before, Keith. I don't know. There's some uncertainty here. Big difference in price between sites, though. That's the big talking point. I'll bring up FanDuel, but AJ Dillon is way up there on FanDuel, and he's 44 on DK. Like, how many touches does he need on DK to be serviceable? Is his price too low on DK for you?
His price is too low, and he's my favorite play on the whole slate, I think. It is really hard to know what the split between the rushing share is going to be. We did see in the week before the bye, Aaron Jones was coming back from an injury, so that plays into it a little bit. But AJ Dillon played more snaps than him. He was in on 53% of the snaps. Aaron Jones just over 46%. And rushing attempts, AJ Dillon outcarried him 20-10. Now, that could have been solely because Aaron Jones was still banged up and they wanted to work him back slowly. And maybe you see that tilt back into Aaron Jones' favor for this game. But AJ Dillon's too cheap on DraftKings. And I think that even if they start out the game with Jones, if the Packers do get that multiple score lead like we talked about, they're not going to want to pound Jones into the ground. And I think in that scenario, AJ Dillon comes in and closes out the game. So I think there's plenty of paths for AJ Dillon to get his work in. And if he has any kind of a role at 4,400 on DraftKings, he's a great play.
Yeah, I think many paths is a good way at that price to accurately describe that. And he is garnering a ton of ownership. But I think it's right. He fits in many different builds, whether he just spells Jones once in a while. If it's a straight up onslaught, they could both coexist. Kind of what we saw in the Detroit Broncos game. where both backs were getting it, but it was an onslaught. It was a rout, and it was a huge main slate. So typically you don't want to go there, but it's an outcome. But on nights like tonight, you throw negative correlations out the window, and many correlations in general in Showdown. So I think you can play both of them. I think it's a possibility. You know what? Like Aaron Jones is projected. He's my favorite captain play tonight, and yes, a part of that reasoning is this 11% projected ownership. Will he come in a little bit higher? Potentially. But we know everybody loves to go wide receiver one, and rightfully so. Devontae Adams is a monster, and he gets super volume. But my I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not saying it's right, but my favorite story to this game is Aaron Jones gets most of his rollback. I don't think Dylan will be cut out. But I'm Chicago. You can run on Chicago. I know I'm preaching to the choir. You're a Chicago guy, but that's what I'm leaning with, and I think it's super leveraging. We know he has killer upside. Aaron Jones for me, I think there's a lot of really interesting things about Aaron Jones in this game. I heard a note today somewhere. I was listening to something, and they said almost a third of Aaron Rodgers' passes are behind the line or screen passes. Well, you know what? There might be some merit to that. The Packers rank 4th in target percentage behind the line of scrimmage, and your Bears give up the third amount of the third highest target share percentage behind the line of scrimmage. And it's kind of going hand in hand with that. Let me see if I can find it. I think I know he's a running back, but I'm pretty sure Aaron Jones receives 50% of his targets behind the line. So it's not exactly that Kamara route running role, like not behind the line of scrimmage all the time. So I think it's really interesting. And I think Aaron Jones's game log is, he's played some pretty stout defenses. And then when he was banged up, Seattle game here, 7 carries, missed the Minnesota game. Those were like 2 premier matchups for this run game, right? On this schedule, Minnesota and Seattle. And then Kansas City was Jordan Love. So I'm willing to throw that game out. We had a respectable game, 21 points against Chicago in the first meeting, first performance he had against Detroit. But other than that, there's some stingy defenses on here. So I don't know, like, how bad is this Chicago's run defense, Keith? Like, don't sugarcoat it, or like, am I bashing them too much? Obviously, without Hicks and Mack, that's a big blow to that defensive front.
Yeah, Hicks in particular. That defensive line is weakened for sure. Like he's a difference maker in there. So yeah, I'm totally on board with that. It's an uncomfortable price to play for Aaron Jones, but the upside is there. We've seen this guy score 3-4 touchdowns in a game before. I think most of the field will be on Adams, who we'll get to in a second, I'm sure, obviously with his massive workload. But Jones, I feel like he scores a couple of touchdowns here, and that's how he's going to get it done. Even if Dylan is cutting into his work a little bit, and he'll catch him out of the backfield as well. Like you mentioned, like they scheme plays for him at the goal line, and he has several receiving touchdowns this year. So
yeah, he had 3 alone. And I think he had 3 receiving. I think 3 receiving in that Detroit game. I think earlier in the season.
Yeah,
and
he did.
And like you said, like the numbers are showing the Bears kind of give that behind the line, cushion, whatever this schematically it is. And what's so nice, a little bit nicer, is having one of the smartest quarterbacks of all time, Justin Fields. I'm just kidding. Aaron Rodgers, taking nothing away from Fields, but you can, like, if the defense gives that to him, he's gonna put the ball in Jones's hands, or Dylan. Dylan saw targets when he was getting the full workload too. Look at the game log. So if that's what he's gonna give him, I think Jones and Rodgers for tournaments can coexist in lineups together, and maybe even without Adams, if that's the script, if that's what happens. Of course, Adams, on paper is a great play, but like he could get the ball through the air is basically what I should have just said instead of rambling like this.
Yeah, no, you're spot on there. And you mentioned AJ Dillon as well. I'm totally fine playing him in a captain spot here. His low salary allows you to do a lot of stuff with the rest of your lineup, and he has multiple touchdown upside as well. He's going to get carries inside the 5. I'm assuming that they'll rotate him in with Aaron Jones. They like to use him in short yardage, so I think that translates well to inside the 5. Dylan is the guy out there instead of Jones. Maybe on first down, they try the screen pass to Jones. If he's not successful, they bring in Dillon to try to rush it in. So I think both of these running backs have multiple touchdown upside.
I think they do too. It sounds crazy, but this is a unique situation. And this is the same Matt LaFleur who tried to jam Dion Lewis in there when he had Derrick Henry in Tennessee. Before Derrick Henry started going off, it was Matt LaFleur trying to make Dion Lewis a snap share thing. So basically what I'm saying is he'll get Dillon involved. Dion Lewis isn't half the runner that AJ Dillon is. Dion Lewis was great in his role in New England. That's, can't take that away from him. But I'm with you. I'm just so much on Jones trying to get leveraged at. And I think that maybe he gets a little bit of his role back, but I do think Dillon will have enough role at that price. But you mentioned, we'll talk about captains then. You mentioned the price. Like playing Dillon means you can jam it in, right? Is that what your goal is? Like if he scores, he's fine. And if the jam it in guys fit, then it makes sense. Is that kind of your philosophy with him at captain?
Yeah, it is. And like playing Bears is not going to be easy to click the buttons. Obviously, we'll get into the Bears side of this too, but I think you're not going to be able to play Rodgers, Adams, and Jones all in the same lineup. I don't think so. You're going to have to pick between like two of those three. But I think any two of the three is totally fine. They can all coexist together.
Okay. Let's go on to receiver. And, what do we have to say about Devontae Adams, right? I mean, he probably gives you the highest floor out of any receiver in the league in any game. I don't know. Yeah. Talk to me about Green Bay here, Keith.
Yeah, I mean, Adams is the obvious play. You got to pay for it, but you're getting a 30% target share. One of the highest volume guys in the league, if not the highest. Multiple touchdown upside as well. I will note that Adams has not been outstanding against Chicago in the past. I think Jalen Johnson is a capable corner, but they do move him around the formation. So if Adams is the guy they want to feed, they're going to be able to do it. Mention the issues that the Bears have on defense with a couple injuries to big guys. Their pass rush is impacted by that greatly. And I think if Adams is a route that they choose to go, he's going to have no problem eating here.
Are you making, is Valdez-Scantling has had 10 targets in back-to-back games. That's probably more than he's had in like most of some of his seasons combined. Is that an anomaly? I mean, like what's happening here with that?
If it was one game, I would say it's a total anomaly, but it's 2 weeks in a row that we've seen that. The price tag it does not feel good to click that price tag for him. 7.2 on DraftKings, and you think of him as like a big play guy where you need a long touchdown to pay that off, but that's not the role that he's shown here the last 2 weeks. I don't think many people are going to play him. We currently have him projected for 20% ownership. I don't know if that many people are going to click the button on 7.2 Valdez-Scantling. It's just uncomfortable. I think he's a great deep tournament play. Like I won't get to him in like single entry 3-max stuff, but in a large field, the Bears defense is susceptible to the deep pass. I'm remembering the Rams game. Cooper Kupp got behind the defense twice, and there was like not a defender within 20 yards of these guys. So they definitely can get beat deep, and Valdez-Scantling is the guy that's going to do that to him if it gets done.
January 3rd of last year, 3 targets, 2 catches, 87 yards, and a touchdown against the Bears. So I just want to see what he did last year against them. Not that is something to go by, but if it's a similar scheme as last season, Keith, can you confirm the scheme similar, or are they running different stuff? Or like,
it is a new defensive coordinator, but he came up in the system under Fangio, and it is definitely the same scheme.
I mean, it's uncomfortable paying $4K for Valdez-Scantling, let alone 7.2. But I'm willing to give it. All it takes is one bomb, and he's like the Mecole Hardman of Green Bay, except he's getting volume. So, and then you have Lazard. Like, I thought for sure we would see more from Allen Lazard since he became relevant on this Green Bay team. Every now and then he scores and gets like 40 yards. I guess I'm not impressed with Lazard. I thought he'd be a bigger part of this offense. Where does he fit on tonight's slate? Does he fit?
I mean, he's a value play, and he's certainly in play because he's going to be out on the field. I mean, I honestly, I would call him a little bit overpriced, even at 4.8K, just because he doesn't have that big of a role. And even when he's been out there, he hasn't seen a lot of success. He struggles to get open. He doesn't have the greatest hands. He drops plenty of balls. So from a volume standpoint, he might make some sense, but I don't love him in this spot. He's just not very good is the problem for me.
I get it. I get it. And then after that, you have, some real dart throws, St. Brown. If you're throwing a dart, it's St. Brown and probably not Malik Taylor or Amari Rogers, probably St. Brown, since Randall Cobb's been out. Now, the Bear side of things, I'll give you the stage here. We have your guy, Allen Robinson, coming back. Is there any cause for concern with any kind of pitch count or anything? And, even when he's been on the field this season, he just couldn't get in sync with either quarterback. What's happening with Allen Robinson?
Yeah, I'm more concerned about the chemistry than I am the injury. It was a hamstring injury, which is very tough for wide receivers. The Bears aren't really playing for anything. I don't think Allen Robinson would be active if they don't intend him to run out there for his full allotment of snaps. So I'm not really concerned about him playing on a bum hammy or anything, but I am concerned about his chemistry with Justin Fields. Like, this was a guy who had a massive target share the last couple of years, and that's fallen off completely. It's down around like 21%, which is still fine, especially at his price tag now, but the production just has not been there at all this season. I don't know any reason why all of a sudden he would just pop up and have a monster game. So I think at his price, it's okay to take some shots, but I don't love it. I don't think the Bears are going to throw very much. They're going to lean run heavy. They're going to hand it off to Montgomery a ton. They're going to use Fields on options and things like that. Fields is going to scramble plenty. There's not going to be a ton of volume to pay off a lot of these pass catchers. And Mooney has clearly surpassed Robinson in production and in target share. I know he's more expensive, and Robinson is a very, very talented receiver. But I still have to go to Mooney first.
But you could say, oh, well, Robinson's been out for a while. They played many weeks where they coexisted, and even with terrible quarterback play between whatever Dalton gave you and when Fields was still really feeling it out. Like, you can see a little bit more from Fields than you did when Robinson was in. So maybe some of it's on Fields, but you're right. When the two were still in, Mooney was his guy, right? So I guess go ahead.
He fits the way Justin Fields plays football better too. Like, Justin Fields at Ohio State even was a down the field guy, deep pass type of player. And that's what Mooney offers. Like, Robinson isn't a deep guy. He's the over the middle possession catch type of player. So, I mean, Mooney just fits better with Fields' skill set as well.
Okay. And then it gets really interesting because now you have Robinson coming back, and then Damiere Byrd and Jakeem Grant were in the mix the last couple of weeks. Last week, Jakeem Grant played 63% of the snaps. Damiere Byrd played 86. That was a big increase from Grant from prior weeks, and I'm sure you know this. But Byrd was kind of a consistent staple of the offense. At least he was, living on the field like he was a body while Robinson was out. So are we going to see Jakeem Grant? Is we going to see his snap count kind of fall off the table a little bit now?
Well, Marquise Goodwin is out, so there's still
Right.
room for a third wide receiver here. I think Byrd will probably be on the field more, but he's a wind sprinter. He's just going to run the clear out routes. If you're playing Damiere Byrd, you're hoping for one deep shot, touchdown, a deep touchdown play. That's how you get there with Damiere Byrd. I have more interest in Jakeem Grant. You talked about the Bears liking to run, or the Packers liking to run plays behind the line of scrimmage. That's where Jakeem Grant's going to get involved. They'll throw him a couple of screen passes, and he's a dynamic playmaker when he has the ball in his hands. They're going to, it's an easy target for Fields. Put the ball in Grant's hands and hope that he can make a play as a runner. So I think he should get at least like 2 chances at that. So I have interest in Jakeem Grant breaking a screen pass at 2.8K. I would prefer him over thinking that Damiere Byrd's going to catch on like a 40-yard bomb.
Yeah. I remember those Patriots days. I don't know how much of it was on Cam Newton, but it was just short stuff, right? Like, intermediate kind of, I don't know. I think the Grant call is interesting because people might look at the same numbers we're looking at and think, well, he's probably going to be the odd man out, but maybe that's not the case, you know?
I think he's a little bit of a gadget guy where they will, when he's out there, he's going to have plays schemed specifically for him.
Let's go to tight end. You know, each team has a bunch of tight ends they typically roster. It doesn't mean they're getting a lot of production from them, though. Cole Kmet has the most upside out of anybody, any tight end in this group here. Jimmy Graham is pretty much like splitting time with Jesse James now. Last 3 weeks for Jimmy Graham, 20%, 20%, 28%. Jesse James has outsnapped him each of the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks, pretty much most of the year now. So, but they don't get targeted. They don't run a ton of routes. But, one touchdown makes either one of them optimal. So that's why we play this crazy game. I have interest in Cole Kmet quite a bit. He talk about a guy who moves around the formation, big target, easy completion guy. It took a while for Kmet to kind of get it, get on the same page with Fields or whatever it was. I like Kmet in this game. I think his price tag is fair, and he won't have to do as much as Robinson or Mooney to hit value. If the Bears are really bad, like I'd rather have Kmet and his, 5 targets, maybe one of them he gets lucky, or maybe he does it with raw points to pay off that tag. I do like Kmet quite a bit, and I think 20% ownership is generous, I think, tonight. I don't know. What are your thoughts with Kmet and the rest of this tight end group for Chicago?
Yeah, Kmet is the better play. He's going to be the volume guy for sure. He'll be on the field more than anybody. I think he'd be the safest option. What Jimmy Graham has, though, is a red zone role. I think that the touchdown equity for Graham is higher than Kmet. They love to put Jimmy Graham in there down around the goal line and just let him try to box people out and throw it up to him. That's really all he's good for anymore. But that plays, on a single game showdown where touchdowns are king, that plays. So I have quite a bit of interest in Jimmy Graham as a value play as well. I agree. Kmet is the better play. He'll see more volume, more targets. But I'm going to be playing some Jimmy Graham also.
How confident are you? Like, how many red zone trips are we going to see out of Chicago? Like, what's your confidence level?
That's a fair point. You might only get like 2 cracks at it, but I guarantee if they do get down there, at least one of their 3 plays will be Jimmy Graham go box somebody out. We're going to throw it up to you.
I think you can do that against the secondary too. It's just a matter of getting down there. Then it gets exciting. On the Green Bay side of things, outside of Robert Tonyan's touchdown dependency when he played, like, it's just bizarre that Aaron Rodgers, like, no tight end has been popping for Green Bay in years, or like ever. I don't know. I still think of Bubba Franks when Favre played. Like, I don't know. So not even Mercedes Lewis, who is the exact same thing except plays less, a little less, and doesn't. He's like in there the block, but we haven't seen the Mercedes Lewis touchdown yet this year. I don't believe. He's a 1 catch for 6 yards and a score optimal potentially kind of guy, but like I'm more prone to play a guy like Mercedes Lewis. Yeah, no touchdowns this year yet. Maybe it's squeaky wheel Mercedes time. I don't know, but like they have the higher team total, and like I don't mind punting him because it's kind of the same thing. I think he did it once or twice last year. Okay, that's a little scary. But Josiah DeGuara here is the guy who's actually been targeted a bit over the last couple of weeks, and he's playing a little bit. I mean, look at his log here: 4-2, 3-2-2. I mean, it's not sexy. He has a touchdown, but he's been incorporated in this offense, and he's been playing a decent amount of snaps, about the same as Lewis. So it's kind of the same thing on this side. Touchdown dependency, it feels like, like red zone stuff. That's pretty much it, Keith, for me.
Yeah, deep tournament dart throws on both of these guys. I know the Packers will definitely be in the red zone more, or are projected to be in the red zone more. But I think the Bears guys have better opportunity when they get down there. We talked about how much touchdown equity Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon, and Devontae Adams, all 3 of them have. These tight ends are way down the pecking order for me, where the Bears, they're more in the conversation for red zone looks. So I would prefer play the Bears guys, even though they'll probably be down there less and they're a little bit more expensive. But I don't mind trying to find a touchdown here. I mean, tight end touchdowns and showdown is what we do, right?
Yep, you're right. And the tight end theme has been pretty consistent this season. So maybe we'll get one of these punt plays to get in there. So, yuck, it is what it is. How about defense? Got any love for either defense here?
The Packers are overpriced. This is the only thing. I mean, theoretically, against a rookie quarterback and a very dysfunctional offense, you'd think that the Packers defense should be in play, but I don't want to pay 5.4K for a defense. That's just not generally how I think they're going to end up overowned. We've got them about 15% projected right now. I think people are going to look at this Bears offense and be like, they're terrible. The Packers defense are a Jalen type of play. And if they approach like 20%, I don't have any interest. I really don't have any interest in the Packers at 15%.
Can I give you any, can I like talk you up a little bit here? Like, is there any chance the Bears hang around for like 2 quarters and get Montgomery going? Like, yes, I'm worried about him getting scripted out late, but the Bears are a zone run team. They run the 6th most, zone runs basically, and they're at the 5th highest success rate. The Packers are a mess defending the zone run. I think Montgomery is the key to getting this thing. Like, okay, if I'm the Bears, I win the coin toss, I receive, and I try to pound it down with Montgomery and get down there and score so I can have him in the script for like 3 quarters if I'm lucky. Is that an outcome for you? Like, I kind of don't mind that to be a little bit different. I think Montgomery is really interesting.
I think Montgomery is like the best Bears play, maybe outside of Fields, just because Fields can get there with his legs also. Montgomery's priced up, but his role is incredible. When he was injured, we saw Khalil Herbert come in and play very well for the Bears. So I had assumed when Montgomery came back, it was going to be a little bit of a timeshare, but it really hasn't been. 84% of the snaps last week, 93% the week before that. And I mean, they've given Khalil Herbert like 4 touches each of the past 2 weeks. So this is totally David Montgomery's backfield. And if this game does stay close, I agree with you. It is solely on the shoulders of David Montgomery, maybe with a little Justin Fields rushing and Darnell Mooney sprinkled in. But Montgomery is going to be the key to making that work for sure.
Yeah.
I will say, if I'm going to captain a Bear too, I think Montgomery would be the guy that I'd look to.
Yeah, and you're going to get leverage. I mean, like, okay, we'll skip kickers for now because we talk about the same thing every week. Sub 10%. I mean, like that, they have to get him early, or God forbid, force the 3 and out quick and get the ball. I think, but like he can break the slate. I think of the Rams primetime game where everyone was like, "Wow, there's no way." We were both off the run game, and he ran right down the Rams' throat. That game, right? Because we typically don't play the run games in showdowns, but I think this is a fascinating spot for him.
Yep, I agree with you.
Yeah, I think a lot of Jimmy Graham and Mercedes Lewis, without looking, like, what's their combined age? Are we over under like 74? You think? It's probably pretty close.
It is really close. I'm pretty sure Graham is like 36, and I think Lewis is older. So
I'm like brain associating Mercedes Lewis with like Mark Brunell, Fred Taylor, Jimmy Smith, but I don't know. They might have overlapped. Is he that old? There's our trivia question. If you're with us, guys, how old is Mercedes Lewis, and did he play with Fred Taylor and company? I don't know. Let's do about 8:06 Eastern, guys, here, and I don't know if anyone's found our crunch time chat or not to get some questions, but we appreciate you guys sticking with us wherever you are. I don't see a ton of questions now, but feel free to drop them in this chat here. Until then, I guess we'll get a build going here. Let's do this is your game. This is the Bears. So I'll let you kick this off, whatever direction you want to go, and then I'll follow the lead here, and I'll plug in a play behind you. Wait, hold on, actually, time out. I'm a terrible host. First of all, I want to reference the premium article. It looks like the 4-2 build is kind of where the most leverage was sticking out. Let me bring that up. Is that what you were seeing too?
That is what I saw. And building lineups, like, it's not fun clicking on one Bear, let alone 2 Bears. So yeah, that was a little bit surprising to see. And even more surprising, the 5-1 build was horrible leverage. So like when I was building lineups, I was getting a lot of 5-1 Packers. And it doesn't look like that's the right way to play this slate. Like, it's a low total, so I think that has an impact. If the Bears score a touchdown, that's definitely a Bear that you want. And then maybe you get like if you like whoever catches the touchdown, or if it's Montgomery that runs it in, you want him. And then Fields probably shows up in there too, but that leaves you making tough decisions on the Packers skill guys that you want. So it is a little bit of a tricky slate in that regard if you're going to try to get two Bears in there.
It is tricky. I mean, I think we're going to see some more onslaught builds than we're probably accustomed, like 5-1, and I can't argue with that. It's not typically what I run, but
right, being an 11-point spread, that's kind of what when I opened Slate IQ, I was kind of expecting to see the leverage on the 5-1 build. So to see it on the 4-2 was a bit surprising.
Yeah. All right, let's do a build here, and I'll kick it off to you. I think neither of us are going Rodgers at captain, and when we do this, it's kind of like, not a massive field, but like something, a tournament, 3 max, 1,000 entries, something like that. That's kind of what we try to gear this build towards. So, where do you want to go here? I mean, we talked about Adam. We didn't really talk about Adams because we know how great he is, and we like the run game for Green Bay. And you talked about Dylan. Is that more of a larger field move, or are you willing to do that in smaller field stuff at captain?
I think it's okay in smaller field. If you had to put a number on the split between Jones and Dylan, so like 50-50, 60-40, where would you peg that at?
That's tough because, like, if it's an onslaught, it could be more of an even split, even, right? But like I said, I'm really heavy on Jones, so I'm hoping that it's going to be like a 70-30 kind of thing. But again, I could be wrong. And if it's an onslaught and, maybe Dylan gets the fourth quarter work and he scores and has 40 yards, it doesn't matter, even if it is 70-30, right? So, like, you said many paths for Dylan, and I think there are a ton of paths for him to be successful. I just worry about Jones or Adams breaking the slate at captain and that being optimal, even with a solid day from Dylan,
All right, fair points. I think it's closer to 60-40, maybe even 55-45. I think Dylan was impressive, and
he was.
I like Jones's injury prone, and let's be honest, this game doesn't matter to the Packers other than they get out of here with a win. They're looking for bigger things. So I don't think they're gonna like crush Jones as long as they get out to that lead that Vegas is projecting them to get out to. Dylan is going to be very involved here.
We can go him at captain. Let's do it.
Well, I was going to say Jones does have a little bit more touchdown equity. I think there's a little bit more big play ability there. I say we play them both, but let's throw Jones in the captain and say he's the guy that's getting the touchdowns.
All right. Well, let's play them both. I'm going to throw Dylan in right behind him. That's cool with you. I won't take the cop out though. I'll add somebody else in here. It is tough to do the 4-2, but we want another Packer in here, and it also doesn't feel comfortable making a tournament build without Aaron Rodgers. But if you're playing Jones and you're playing Dylan to be the Aroldis Chapman closer here in the fourth quarter, I think you can get away without Aaron Rodgers in tournament builds if he peppers Devontae and the running backs do work here. If this is the script we're building for, and if you're rostering both, I think that's what you need to happen. Are you picking up what I'm putting down at all with maybe not playing Aaron Rodgers in this build?
Yeah, I'm following your train of thought there. My concern is how much volume is left over for Adams.
Mm-hmm.
Can he get there through receptions alone?
But you make another good point that he hasn't been good against the Bears, which could a number of factors could be, or it could just be pure variance. I don't know. But the fact that Aaron Rodgers, I'm talking myself back in there, and Aaron Rodgers, you make a good point. We're throwing him in because my initial conversation, and I based a lot of my lineups around it, was he's going to check down to these guys and take what Chicago gives them.
I think both of them receive passing volume in this spot. So I think that even though we're playing two running backs, it's okay to play Aaron Rodgers. And this should be a pretty unique build too.
I think so. And, if he's really going to take what Chicago's schematically going to give him and they plot down the field 8 yards at a time, he's going to be fine with that, I think. So, okay. So we have to play a Bear eventually, Keith. We have about 59 per spot left, and it sounds like you don't want any part of Allen Robinson. Am I accurate in saying so?
I think you are accurate. And with Jones and the captain, I think we've priced ourselves out of David Montgomery. I guess we could punt that last spot and still get something decent if we put Montgomery in there. But for me, I mean, in a trailing game script, Darnell Mooney is the guy. He's got the big playability. He's got the volume of any of the pass catchers. He's leading in target share. So Mooney is the guy I have to have.
Yep, that's fair. We got 46 per position left, and we can plug one more in. Now this is where it gets tricky because there's all these tight ends who are touchdown dependent. We didn't talk anything about kickers, but it's very possible that one of them kick 3 of them and they become optimal. Like if I was confident in Chicago moving the ball just a little bit more, I would have no problem playing Santos in this game, but especially that they're most likely going to trail. I usually a kicker provides a pretty high floor, looking at all these guys under him. I just don't know, but I like what you were saying about Jakeem Grant. If you think that role is going to be a thing and you're going to get super good ownership on him, how do you feel about Jakeem Grant in this build?
Yeah, I'm good with that. I mean, I think we're definitely building for a Packers win here, playing both running backs. And that's going to force the Bears to the air more than they would like to. So, yeah, I'm totally fine with that.
Let's see what that would give us left over here. 65. So, I mean, you could, go in a number of different ways. I mean, we didn't even talk about Packers defense, and it is a rookie quarterback, kind of dysfunctional offense. New piece coming back in after missing time. It could go so many different ways. It really could, but I don't think that's a bad build. I mean, you'll be super different, like having Rodgers without Adams or Valdez-Scantling, and having Jakeem Grant at this sub 10% ownership, I think is really interesting as well.
Yeah, I think in a large field you could even leave some money here. If this was a single entry, I would probably plug Komet in over Grant, and then that leaves you in a sweet spot for that final roster spot.
We did a lot of Allen Robinson bashing here, but
he would fit that build nicely too. It's the pass volume for the Bears that I'm worried about.
Yeah. You need a splash play more than attack the middle of the field, get 10 targets kind of guy, because that's like what Fields is going to bring to the table kind of thing. Like screen pass splash or Mooney over the top kind of thing instead of
or Mooney gets loose deep and then Robinson is the one that gets there on volume. I think that could work out.
All right, that sounds good. About 8:15 p.m. Eastern here, guys. And Carolina guy found us in the Discord chat, so shout out to Carolina guy. Best strategy for FanDuel GPP, and his question is, and it kind of goes same thing with contrarian MVP for large field. Let me see if I can bring up FanDuel. I mean, I think you're going to get Jones at good ownership too, and I think he's an interesting move alone. Now, would you if you think this is going to be a split? You have any interest in playing Dylan as a raw points guy on FanDuel at MVP? I got to put you on the spot here.
It's a much harder conversation when their salaries are so much closer. This is almost raw points, Dylan or Aaron Jones. I mean, there's a slight discount on Dylan, but it's a far different conversation than DraftKings. I don't like Dylan near as much on FanDuel. I would say that, even though I think it's going to be 60-40 for Jones at worst. Yeah, still tough. I mean, if Dylan scores and Jones doesn't, I guess that's how it works out, and you need Dylan instead of Jones.
Yeah, it's possible. My vote's Aaron Jones. I guess I just talked too much about Aaron Jones, but let me bring up his ownership here. Let's see.
It's like about 16% as a MVP play.
I mean, that's fine. Usually for large field on FanDuel, I like to try to find someone a little bit lower, but I still don't hate it because I think he has immense upside. Anybody else? I mean, like anybody in the Bears for Rob? Like,
I was gonna say we're showing Justin Fields 8% in the MVP. Wow. I mean, I don't hate that.
I don't either. We talked about Montgomery being, a plausible outcome, but a lot of things need to go right for that to happen. But I thought the zone run numbers on our Gridiron IQ tool were very interesting. So I think it's in the cards. I don't know how many outs you have, but I think it's possible. Anything else we didn't cover, man, that you want to Get off your chest.
I think we dug into it all. Looking for any other punt plays. Nothing standing out.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
I don't want to do a Jesse James. That's a little too deep. I think Graham's. I mean, it could happen, but
it could. I will say, like, I know we talked a little bit about the 4-2, and it's tough to play two, like maybe get your Bears in, but you could play Montgomery a captain and the Packers still win. Vegas doesn't like that. None of us like it, but like it would kind of take care of one of your Bears having, getting Chicago there close enough, right? That
I think that there's definitely a path for that to work out. This game's a little bit closer than it's projected to be, and Montgomery scores 2 touchdowns and no other Packer scores 2. I mean, I think that works out, even though the Packers score more touchdowns. If the Bears 2 are concentrated on Montgomery, he ends up the top scorer in the game.
Plausible for sure. That's my only other thought there. About 8:18 Eastern, guys. Thanks for sticking with us, and hopefully more of us get moved over to the Discord chat for next weekend. Devin, do you have any take on this game? You heard us BS about it for the better part of 45 minutes. So what are your thoughts on this one tonight? You got any bets, any action or anything going on, Devin?
Well, I'm a little nervous. I'm finding myself, as I was mentioning in the Discord, trying to decide if I want to play both Jones and Dillon or try and fade one or the other. And I think I've just decided I'm going all in Jones, fading Dillon. So,
it'll be different. It'll be different for sure, but it makes sense. So good luck. Good luck.
Be really curious to see what the split ends up being.
Yeah, that's what I'm curious about.
Yeah.
Is it worth mentioning that Damian Williams is active for the first time in forever? Like, do you care, Keith?
No, I don't. I mean, maybe they think he's a better pass receiver than Montgomery, and he cuts into Montgomery's pass work a little bit. But I mean, Khalil Herbert looked really good when he was given opportunities, and they still had no interest in cutting into Montgomery's share with Herbert. I don't see any reason why they would do it with a veteran like Williams instead of a rookie like Herbert.
Yeah, that's fair. 8:19, guys. Make sure you're locking them up here. It's about that time. You don't want to forget about it. So I think the Packers D is a little bit interesting, just if you're playing a ton of running backs, and that is kind of a traditional correlation. You would need a big mistake from Fields or somebody, but other than that,
I will note Fields has definitely been susceptible to the sack fumble, so I could see a scoop and score without question. So it's completely viable if you want to play Packers defense. It's just I don't like to play defense as much in Showdown is my only thing, but they're very much in play.
And that was
sure.
on lock, so that means that was definitely a lock for us to be a pick six return for a touchdown.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of goes without saying. If you're tuned into the show, you probably understand Fields is pretty volatile with his range of outcomes, and it could be good or it could be bad. But best of luck to you as a Chicago fan and on the DFS streets today, my friend Keith, and of course Devin. Anything else, fellas, before we wrap up another Sunday here at RotoGrinders?
Nothing else for me.
Go Titans, 9-4.
It ain't pretty, but it's beautiful or something like that. We'll take it. So good stuff. So thanks, fellas, and thanks for everybody for tuning in. For my co-host here, Keith Eister, and producer Devin, after a long day, we appreciate you, buddy. I'm Justin Carlucci. Enjoy the rest of your night and good luck.